The hardest goodbye you'll ever say is the one where you finally choose yourself. I know where you are right now, standing at the edge of a decision you've been avoiding, holding on to people, places, habits, not because they're good for you, but because you're afraid of what happens if you let go. You've been strong for everyone else. You've been patient. You've been understanding. But somewhere along the way, you stopped being loyal to yourself. Today isn't about anger. It's about clarity. It's about the quiet, unshakable power of choosing yourself. For the longest time, I believed that choosing myself meant I was taking something away from others. That if I put my needs first, I was somehow failing as a daughter, a friend, a partner, a leader. I wore exhaustion like a badge of honor. I thought love meant overgiving. I thought strength meant staying quiet, even when something inside me was breaking. And maybe you've been there too. Saying yes when your soul is whispering no, smiling when you're tired, staying when your spirit is asking for space. We're taught early on that being selfless is noble, that sacrifice is holy, but no one teaches us the difference between sacrifice and self-erasure. Here is what life, slowly, gently, and sometimes painfully taught me. Choosing yourself is not an act of selfishness, it is an act of reverence. You were given one life, one heart, one mind, one breath that wakes you up every morning, and honoring that gift is not optional, it's sacred work. When you ignore your own needs long enough, your body will speak, your spirit will protest, your joy will dim, and no amount of external validation will fill that quiet ache inside. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you stop loving people. It means you stop abandoning yourself to keep them comfortable. There's a subtle but powerful difference. Love that requires you to shrink is not love. It's a negotiation where you always lose. When you choose yourself, you're not rejecting others. You're rejecting the version of life where you come last every single time. You're saying, my well-being matters too. And that truth can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've been the one who always holds things together. I remember a moment when I realized how deeply I had tied my worth to how much I could endure, how much I could give, how much I could tolerate. I thought resilience meant silence. But resilience without self-respect turns into slow destruction. You don't notice it right away. It happens quietly. In the way you wake up tired even after rest. In the way your laughter feels forced. In the way you feel invisible in rooms where you once felt alive. Choosing yourself asks you to listen, really listen, to what your inner voice has been saying all along. It asks you to pause before saying yes, to check in with your body, to ask, does this align with who I'm becoming? And sometimes the answer will disappoint people. That's the part no one prepares you for. But disappointment is not a sin. Self-betrayal is. When you choose yourself, you set a standard, not just for others, but for your own soul. You begin to understand that boundaries are not walls. They are bridges to healthier relationships. People who truly care about you don't benefit from your burnout. They benefit from your wholeness, from your clarity, from your peace. And the ones who only loved you when you were overextending, they were attached to your sacrifice, not your happiness. There's also a quiet faith required in choosing yourself. Faith that you are enough even when you're not performing. Faith that rest is productive. Faith that saying no will not make the world fall apart. Faith that God, the universe, life itself did not design you to live depleted. When you honor yourself, you align with something greater than guilt. You step into responsibility. Responsibility for the life you are meant to live, not the one others expect from you. And here's the beautiful part. When you start choosing yourself, you don't become harder. You become clearer, softer in the right places, stronger in the right moments. You begin to give from overflow, not obligation. Your love becomes intentional, not resentful. Your presence becomes powerful because it's no longer forced. Choosing yourself is sacred because it's the foundation of everything else. You cannot build a meaningful life on self-neglect. You cannot serve authentically while silently suffering. The world doesn't need more exhausted heroes. It needs whole humans. And wholeness begins the moment you decide that your life, your peace, your purpose are worth protecting. This isn't about becoming selfish. It's about becoming honest. Honest about your limits. Honest about your needs. Honest about the fact that you deserve the same compassion you give so freely to others. When you choose yourself, you're not stepping away from love. You're stepping into a deeper, truer kind of it, one that starts within and radiates outward. And once you understand that, you never choose yourself with guilt again. You choose yourself with grace. There comes a moment in life when you look around and realize that some of the people who once felt essential now feel unfamiliar. Not because they became bad or you became ungrateful, but because you grew. And growth has a way of changing the view. At first, that realization feels like betrayal. You ask yourself, why can't they come with me? You replay memories, you remind yourself of loyalty, of history, of everything you've been through together. And yet, something inside you knows the truth long before you're ready to admit it. We're taught to romanticize longevity, to believe that if someone started the journey with us, they deserve to be there at the finish line. But life doesn't work like a straight road. It's a series of crossings, intersections, detours. Some people walk with you only until the lesson is learned. And that doesn't make the connection meaningless. It makes it complete. I used to think letting people go meant I was giving up too easily. I thought endurance was proof of love. But staying in spaces that no longer nurture you doesn't make you loyal. It makes you stagnant. There is a difference between commitment and attachment. Commitment grows with you. Attachment clings to who you used to be. And when you confuse the two, you start shrinking yourself just to keep the peace. Every relationship has a purpose. Some teach you confidence. Some teach you boundaries. Some teach you forgiveness. And some teach you how strong you are when you walk away. Not everyone is meant to witness your next chapter, because not everyone has the capacity to understand it. And that's not an insult, it's alignment. We suffer when we try to drag people into futures they were never meant to inhabit. We exhaust ourselves explaining our dreams to minds that cannot see them. We dim our ambition to avoid making others uncomfortable. But growth requires honesty. And honesty sometimes sounds like distance, silence, goodbye. Letting go doesn't mean the love wasn't real. It means the season has changed. Trees don't apologize for shedding leaves. Rivers don't grieve every shore they pass. Nature understands something we resist. Movement is life. Holding on to expired connections out of fear is like holding on to a door that's already closed while another stands open behind you. There's grief in letting go, and we shouldn't pretend otherwise. You mourn versions of yourself. You mourn shared dreams. You mourn the comfort of familiarity. But grief is not a signal to turn back. It's proof that what you felt mattered. You can honor what was without chaining yourself to it. Gratitude and release can coexist. Sometimes the bravest thing you'll ever do is stop forcing what no longer flows. To accept that growth will cost you people. And that's okay. The ones meant for your future won't require you to live in the past. They won't compete with your evolution. They'll celebrate it. They'll recognize you not for who you used to be, but for who you're becoming. There is also a quiet humility in letting go. It means admitting that you don't control every outcome, that you don't get to decide who stays. Life does. And when you trust that process, you stop personalizing departures. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? Some people leave because their role is complete. Some stay longer than they should because you're afraid of the emptiness they'll leave behind. But emptiness is not your enemy. It's space. And space is where growth happens. Space is where clarity lives. Space is where the next version of you can finally breathe. When you accept that not everyone is meant to finish with you, you release yourself from unnecessary guilt. You stop carrying relationships that have become heavy instead of healing. You stop measuring your worth by who stays. and you begin to understand that alignment matters more than attachment. The journey was never about keeping everyone. It was about becoming yourself. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for them and for you is to let go with grace, thank the lesson, and keep walking forward, lighter than before. There was a time when I thought strength meant having the last word. I thought dignity lived in explanations, in defending myself, in making sure my side of the story was heard. I believed that if I stayed quiet, I would be misunderstood, and being misunderstood felt unbearable. So I spoke. I over-explained. I justified my feelings to people who had already decided not to understand them. And every time I did that, I walked away feeling smaller, not stronger. What I didn't know then is that silence, when chosen consciously, is not absence. It's presence, it's power, it's self-respect speaking in a language that doesn't need applause. There are moments in life when words stop serving you, when conversations turn into negotiations for your worth, when explanations become performances. And when that happens, silence becomes a sanctuary. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of clarity. The kind that says, I know who I am and I don't need to prove it to you. Silence is often misunderstood because we live in a world addicted to noise. We're taught to react instantly, to respond immediately, to defend ourselves publicly and loudly. But wisdom moves differently. Wisdom pauses, wisdom listens, wisdom knows stage. And not every misunderstanding deserves correction, and not every conflict deserves your energy. I learned this the hard way, by noticing how drained I felt after trying to convince people of my truth. The more I explained, the less they listened. The more I justified, the more power I gave away. Until one day, I chose quiet. I chose to step back instead of stepping into another argument. And something unexpected happened. I felt lighter, clearer, stronger. Silence is not passive. It's intentional. It's choosing peace over performance. It's understanding that your value doesn't increase because someone finally agrees with you. When you stop needing validation, you stop needing noise. Walking away quietly doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you cared enough about yourself to stop engaging in what was harming you. Some people thrive on reaction. They feed on your explanations. They gain control through conflict. And silence starves that dynamic. It breaks unhealthy patterns without confrontation. It ends cycles without chaos. There's also a deep humility in silence. It acknowledges that not everyone is capable of meeting you where you are. And instead of forcing connection, you choose distance. Not as punishment, but as protection. Protection of your peace, your nervous system, your spirit. Silence is especially powerful when you've been wronged. The instinct is to demand justice through words, to make sure they know what they did. But sometimes, the most profound statement is your absence. When you stop showing up where you're not respected, when you remove your presence from spaces that diminish you, that absence speaks louder than any argument ever could. I've learned that people who truly care don't require long explanations. They listen the first time, they adjust, they make room. Silence in that case is not needed. But when someone repeatedly crosses your BO, undares, dismisses your feelings, or minimizes your truth, silence becomes your final sentence. There's also faith woven into silence. Faith that the truth doesn't need your voice to survive. Faith that life has a way of revealing character without your intervention. Faith that you don't need to fight every battle, because some battles are won by walking away. Silence teaches you discipline. It trains you to respond instead of react, to choose long-term peace over short-term satisfaction, to trust that your growth will speak for you, that your consistency will speak for you, that your calm will speak for you. And something shifts when you embrace this kind of silence. You stop arguing with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop explaining yourself to those who benefit from your confusion. You conserve energy, and that energy begins to build something better. Clarity, purpose, alignment. Silence is not about disappearing. It's about deciding where your voice matters. It's about using your words where they are valued and withholding them where they are weaponized against you. It's about knowing that not every chapter requires commentary. When you master silence, you master self-respect. You realize that peace is not found in being heard by everyone, but in being at peace with yourself. And that kind of quiet confidence changes the way you walk, the way you choose, the way you live. Because sometimes the strongest statement you'll ever make is the one you don't say out loud. For a long time, I lived in survival mode without even realizing it. I thought constant alertness was strength. I thought exhaustion meant I was doing something right. I learned how to adapt quickly, how to read the room, how to brace myself before life could hit me again. And while that version of me kept going, kept standing, kept pushing, she was never at peace. She was surviving, not living. Survival mode teaches you how to endure, not how to expand. It sharpens your instincts but hardens your heart. You become efficient, resilient, unbreakable, and quietly disconnected from joy. You celebrate getting through the day instead of dreaming about what's possible beyond it. And at some point you realize that merely surviving is not the miracle you were created for. The version of you that survives is born out of necessity. It shows up during chaos, uncertainty, and pain. It learns to be strong too early. It carries responsibilities it never asked for. And you should honor that version of you. She saved you. He protected you. That part of you deserves gratitude, not judgment. But gratitude doesn't mean permanence. What kept you alive then might keep you stuck now. The walls you built for protection can become the cages that limit your growth. Survival mode doesn't ask, is this fulfilling? It asks, is this safe? And safety, while important, is not the same as purpose. You can be safe and still feel empty. You can be stable and still feel misaligned. Thriving requires a different kind of courage. It asks you to loosen your grip, to trust instead of control, to rest without guilt, to believe that life can be more than managing pain, that you don't have to earn joy through suffering, that you are allowed to want ease, beauty, and fulfillment. I remember the moment I realized I was holding on to a life that no longer fit me, simply because it was familiar. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar freedom. So we stay busy, we stay guarded, we stay in environments that require armor. But thriving asks you to take the armor off. And that can feel terrifying when you've spent years convincing yourself that armor is who you are. The shift from surviving to thriving is not dramatic, it's quiet. It begins with small decisions. Choosing rest over overworking. Choosing honesty over people-pleasing. Choosing alignment over approval. These choices feel uncomfortable at first because your nervous system is used to chaos. Peace feels foreign when you've lived in fight or flight for too long. You may feel guilty for wanting more. You may feel undeserving of ease. You may even feel disloyal to your past self. But growth doesn't dishonor survival. It completes it. The strongest people are not those who endure forever, but those who know when to stop enduring and start living. Thriving means allowing yourself to feel again, to dream again, to imagine a life that doesn't require constant defense. It means redefining success, not as how much you can carry, but how deeply you can live. It means understanding that your worth is not measured by your struggle. There is also faith involved in this transition. Faith that life will meet you differently when you show up differently. Faith that you don't have to control every outcome. Faith that softness is not weakness, it's readiness. Readiness to receive instead of just survive. When you step out of survival mode, you may lose some of the identities that once defined you. The strong one, the fixer, the one who never needs help. And that loss can feel disorienting. But in its place, you gain something far greater, authenticity. You become someone who chooses, not just reacts. Someone who creates, not just copes. Thriving doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means life becomes meaningful. Challenges still come, but they don't own you. You face them from a grounded place instead of a wounded one. You respond with wisdom instead of fear. You are not created to spend your entire life bracing for impact. You were created to rise, to contribute, to love, to become. Survival was a chapter, not the whole story. And when you allow yourself to step into that truth, you don't lose your strength. You finally use it for what it was always meant for, building a life that feels like home. Letting go is rarely dramatic. It doesn't always come with a big goodbye or a clear ending. More often, it's a quiet decision you make within yourself. A subtle shift in awareness that something no longer fits. You wake up one day and realize that what once inspired you now exhausts you. That what once felt aligned now feels heavy. And instead of forcing it to work, you pause. That pause is where transformation begins. We hold on to things because they're familiar, even when they drain us, even when they keep us small. Familiarity creates the illusion of safety, but comfort is not the same as alignment. Alignment feels expansive. Comfort just feels known. And when you confuse the two, you start mistaking stagnation for stability. Every time you hold on to something that no longer serves you, you block the flow of what's meant to arrive next. Life moves in cycles. It needs space to evolve. And letting go is how you create that space. Not through force, but through trust. Trust that what's leaving is making room for something more fitting. I've learned that peace is not something you chase, it's something you allow. And you allow it by releasing what disrupts it. When you finally let go of relationships that require self-abandonment, habits that numb you instead of nourishing you, beliefs that limit you instead of liberating you, something shifts. You begin to feel lighter, not because life becomes perfect, but because you're no longer resisting your own growth. Alignment doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives with calm, with clarity, with a sense of inner knowing that says, "This is right." And you can't hear that voice when your hands are full of what no longer belongs to you. Letting go is an act of listening, of making room for intuition to guide you instead. Of fear, there is often guilt attached to letting go. Guilt for changing, guilt for wanting more, guilt for outgrowing people, places, or patterns. But guilt is not a moral compass, it's a signal that you're breaking an old agreement, often one that required you to stay small. Growth will always challenge the identities you've outgrown. When you release what no longer aligns, you don't lose parts of yourself. You reclaim them. You reclaim your energy, your focus, your creativity, your faith. You stop spending your life managing what drains you and start investing in what fulfills you. That shift changes everything. Space is powerful. It allows new ideas to breathe, new relationships to form, new opportunities to find you. But space requires courage, because in the beginning, it feels like emptiness. And emptiness can be uncomfortable if you're used to noise. But emptiness is not absence, it's potential. Alignment also demands honesty. You have to be willing to admit when something is no longer right for you, even if it once was, even if it looks good from the outside, even if walking away means redefining your path. True alignment doesn't ask for justification. It asks for truth. There is a spiritual dimension to letting go. It's an act of surrender. Trusting that life knows how to rearrange itself when you stop controlling every detail, that what's meant for you will not require force. It will meet you with ease, even in challenges. I've noticed that when I let go with grace instead of resentment, life responds differently. Doors don't slam, they gently close. New ones don't rush in, they arrive when I'm ready. Alignment is patient, it respects timing, it honors growth. Letting go doesn't mean you forget. It means you stop carrying what was never meant to be permanent. You stop dragging the past into the future. You allow yourself to evolve without apology. And when you finally make space, real space, you realize something beautiful. What's meant for you doesn't compete for attention. It doesn't drain you. It doesn't confuse you. It fits naturally, quietly, powerfully. That's the reward of letting go. Not loss, but alignment. And alignment is where peace lives. And here is the truth I want you to carry with you when the noise fades and you're alone with your heart. What is meant for you will never require you to lose yourself to keep it. Faith is not holding tighter, it is trusting deeper. When you release what no longer aligns, you make room for the life that was always prepared for you. Choose yourself, even when it's quiet, even when no one applauds, even when the path feels uncertain, because the moment you honor your peace, life begins to meet you with purpose. And when you walk in alignment with faith, courage, and grace, you don't just move forward, you rise.